Hi everybody, this is Rachel Kirkland, the Modern Shaman, and thank you for being here for some question and answer time. I was just reading my next question. It's kind of a lengthy one, so I'm just going to jump right in, read the question, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so here we go. It says, question, if I were to have a conversation with the universe, how would the universe respond to the following? You can certainly use the word God as well. Dear universe/God, you have the most amazing recording studio in the world, namely the Akashic records. Also, departed souls are able to receive the most awesome healing ever in between lives in the astral plane, healing temples. Considering all of this, why the redundancy of recording? In other words, why should it be necessary for anyone to come back to Earth with past life traumas? Encoded or recorded in their DNA or spiritual essence. Why go through that pain when they should have already been healed in their last afterlife excursion prior to this life? And the Akashic recordings already has their past life traumas recorded. Again, why do we need redundant recordings or encodings? Yes. Okay, and then there's a second kind of follow-up to this question saying, as the human species continues to evolve into higher dimensions, will the need for these past life traumas being encoded into our current incarnation even be necessary anymore? So, to paraphrase, he's asking, after we die, if we are healed from all of our trauma, and kind of the space in between lives, then what's the purpose of coming back to Earth, having these past life traumas still encoded in our DNA or karmically affecting us, or whatever you want to call it? Kind of what's the importance of that if we were already healed? And as a human consciousness, as we're growing and our species is evolving, will it even be necessary to have past life traumas encoded into the current incarnation? Okay, so I'm going to tune into this. I'm just going to quiet myself and kind of get into more of a channeling mode. I don't want to answer this from my mental mind, so I want to get kind of to hear from my highest vibrational self what they have to say. Okay, so first thing that is needed to be redefined is the idea that these are multiple lives that you're living, one after the other on Earth, when essence, spirit just sees one life. All lives as one life. So there's not a sense of like after one, you finish, you heal, you go back. It's all one life. So they're showing me this image of a kid going to school, and he's going to school every single day. And, with each day he's going to school, he essentially graduates up to the next grade eventually, and next grade and all this stuff. Now you could look at each of those things and say, why didn't he heal from first grade when he went into second grade? Why didn't he heal from... Why did he come with the same information in his DNA or in his background or in his Akashic records if he was completely healed from all that bullying or any sort of negative experience or any sort of anything that he learned in first grade? Why did he come into second grade? There's a sense that, well, because that's the same person. That's one life. And even though it looks segmented from our earthly perspective, it's not segmented in terms of spirit. It's a continual exploration of expression. So they're also showing me a metaphor or analogy of going to a doctor's office when you need times of healing. You need times of healing that are relevant for different things. And so they're showing me like somebody getting sick and they go to the doctor for the flu, and the doctor prescribes these things, or, you know, or the doctor says, do these exercises or do these such and such, and it'll heal your body. So you do it, you heal, you're just fine. You're going about the rest of your life without needing to think about going back to the doctor or having the flu. But then at times, something may get triggered and you may be like, oh yeah, I forgot. That doctor told me I should have been doing these exercises if I wanted to keep my red blood cells at such and such level, or whatever it may have been. So there is a sense of what you learned and experienced from those healings can be relevant and can be utilized in next incarnations. It's not, they don't feel like it's redundant, like it's a new strand of the flu sometimes, or it's actually a trigger remembering that strand of the flu. So what you're actually working through is how to handle triggers, not the flu. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's so there's a subtle higher lesson that you're not learning the trauma of a past life. You're not learning the trauma, but you're learning how to deal with a trigger of a past life trauma. So there are subtle and subtle, higher and higher differentiations of learning, and they're showing them that way, that this is just all one life, all one expression of source that is continually expanding. None of it is redundant. It just gets more and more subtle in terms of the lessons. And this is how spirit works. The higher and higher you get, the simpler and simpler it is, the more profound it is, but the more is in the simple. You know, it's not dualistic. So it's actually like spirit may say one word, like I am. But there's so much in that statement. There's so much complexity and subtlety in simplicity. Do you get what I'm saying? So they're using that same explanation with something like this. Like, the higher and higher you get in terms of your spiritual growth and expansion, and again, it's not linear, but I'm just using that term with my human expression. But as you're growing more and more, the lessons may seem like they encapsulate a lot of other lessons. They're inclusive of other things that you've learned. But there's a heightened sense of awareness, or there's a broader sense of perspective. So you may go through the same thing you went through in a past life, but you may have a whole different perspective on it. And so therefore, the lesson is still relevant and not redundant. Because in the last time, you were in the body of this female that went through this experience, and this time, you are in a body and you are watching the female experience these things, and you are maybe her teacher, or you may feel this desire to protect her, or there may be a different energy coming at the same encoded history of trauma, if that makes sense. And that second question, as we evolve as a human species, will the need for having past life trauma being encoded? No. No. So I don't know about you, but I don't see it like past life, future life. It's just all one life, right? All lives that you've ever had are one life. So there's not a sense of like finishing one and then starting another one. It's all the same. And they're all little steps within the larger step, or bubble within the bigger bubble, and then within the bigger bubble, and the macro to micro. It all goes equally, infinitely in all directions. So I don't feel like the need for it. It's not that there's a need for it. Let me tune into that part about the need. Okay, so Spirit said basically trauma and things that come up dealing with past life trauma or karmic stuff or whatever you feel like, patterns that come up that may be trauma induced, they come up as they're relevant for you and for your growth and for your experience. So none of them are put on you like a heavy backpack or something. They're things that you draw out. They're things that you call to you. They're, lessons or areas of growth that you draw in magnetically to yourself when it's relevant for you, when you're ready for that level. So they're not necessarily needed in terms of like something from the outside putting it on you, like a teacher going, you need to learn this lesson. No, it's more from the inside out. The more and more we grow as a species, the more you will know what's relevant for you, and you will utilize that past life trauma if it's relevant for you, and you will know if it's relevant to forget it. And we do this already. Those of you that are kind of ascending and living in that 5D kind of mindset, there's a sense that you just forget. It becomes not a part of your existence anymore. You forget the trauma, or you forget who you were. You forget those memories. They're no longer relevant, and they're literally no longer attached to you. It's like it did not exist, because in this now moment, you're so far vibrationally away from that. It's like it's hard to even reach for it. Okay. Love you. Blessings.